Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, the way we do Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget, now you can hear the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And joining me today is a special treat. I don't know if it's a special treat for him or for me or for our audience or all the way around, but joining me today as my co-host du jour is Jonathan Mosley. John, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
It's good to be there, bringing up questions maybe best left unanswered. I'm glad to be here.
And I'm glad to have you here with us, John. Well, John, a couple interesting things I saw in the news today. One could be encouraging, the other is discouraging. Which would you like to hear first?
Let's go with the encouraging one first here.
The encouraging one, well, there's a report out today that John Boehner mentioned in a speech to a group in Texas that he expects to be the majority leader again after the 2014 elections. That's not the good news. The good news is that he does not see himself serving in Congress past 2016.
Really?
That's what it says.
Interesting.
Yep. And
not hear that at all.
Yeah, and the not so good news is, in a warning Republicans not to go crazy with voter ID, says Senator Ron Paul.
I saw that. I saw that.
And it should not be used as a defining issue by the Republican election, by the Republican Party. And that he says everybody's gone completely crazy on this voter ID thing. I think it's wrong for Republicans to go too crazy on this issue because it's offending people. Well, the only people that it's offending are the ones that are offending the law. You know, John Mosley, I made a lot of enemies in 2012 because of my opposition to Ron Paul. A lot of people defriended me on Facebook because I called him the village idiot. Well, maybe the acorn doesn't fall too far from the tree because I'm going to start calling his son the village idiot. You know, I hate to do that because we've had him as a guest on the show. He's a nice guy. But for these people that think that we are offending people by asking for voter ID, that we are offending people when we call them here illegally, this is crazy, John. It's absolutely crazy. And to think that you got a member of the Republican Party who you would hope would add a little to this, go along and play these stinking games. It's offending to me. It's offensive to me, John Mosley.
Well, now you've gone and done away with all the good feelings from the good news here. But I mean, let me count the ways. I don't know. Is there some kind of stupid, pills they put in the water down in Washington D.C.? I don't know what the thing is. But like you say, in a nation of 305 million people, what can you do that's not going to offend someone? Since when is that? Do you ever go out in the world outside your door? I mean, how could anybody even think like that? I don't understand. You've got to what you believe is true, and some people will like it and some won't.
Well, how about this, John? Like I say, I'm offended. That Ron Paul would say that. I'm offended by it.
I'm offended too.
Well, that makes two of us, and I bet if you're offended and I'm offended, there's probably some other people out there that are offended.
I'll bet a lot of the conservative commandos listening are offended at what Rand Paul said, and I like most of what Rand Paul says most of the time. But I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like people. It's like they're not the same person. It's like Rand Paul is a great person, and then every now and then it's like something comes out of these different politicians that it's like suddenly they're channeling a ghost or something and saying something stupid. I mean, I don't dislike Rand Paul, but I'm offended at that.
I don't dislike Rand Paul either. But I'm offended when he says that in a warning, and I'm going to read this again, in a warning to Republicans, quote, not to go crazy on voter ID, Senator Rand Paul said that everyone's gone completely crazy on this voter ID thing. I think it's wrong for Republicans to go too crazy on this issue because it's offending people. I'm offended, Rand Paul. I'm offended that you wouldn't think that I'm offended. Everywhere I go, I got to show photo ID. I can't even get my teeth cleaned without showing voter ID or without showing picture ID, John Mosley. To the dentist I've been dealing with for almost a dozen years. Every time I go in there for treatment, I got to show ID.
Right. Well, and the thing is, see, a lot of times these people say these things. He starts out, we shouldn't go crazy on fill in the blank. Well, of course we shouldn't go crazy on anything, but then they proceed to go crazy in the other direction. Should we obsess over any one issue? No, but when you have, I think a lot of what's going on in Washington, my thing, this is probably more than we could fit in before the break here, but, a lot of what's going on is what unites conservatives. What can we talk about that isn't going to get us into a food fight? Like when Jesus, they were trying to get at him, and then he turns around and says, "Oh, this is because you disagree about the resurrection from the dead," which is what the two groups disagreed on. So they start fighting each other and leave him alone. So what Rand Paul just did is what the party should be trying to avoid. Same thing with amnesty. If you really believe in amnesty, shut up. Now is not the time between now and November. Talk about things that we all agree on.
I disagree with you, John, on that. If they are for amnesty, I want to know about it. I would love to see somebody start a petition, start a pledge that no one who signs this pledge will vote for any politician that supports amnesty or that is against a voter ID. How about that, John?
Yeah, from our point of view, we do want to know, but from their point of view...
I want to know.
What?
I want to know. I want to know where these idiots stand. I'm tired of being lied to and deceived by politicians, John.
Right. But the thing is that, just tactically, to bring up things that we don't, that would have been a perfect moment for Rand Paul to zip it. If he thinks that we're maybe going too far, why are you, just zip it, What can I say?
Well, I want to thank him for exposing what he really is.
Well,
A village idiot just like his father.
Well, and it is like, and of course, people should understand. It isn't because we disagree. It's because his reasoning is so inside the Beltway nuts. It's the reasoning is, he drank from the Potomac River. It's like you go crazy. Like the gods of, if you drink from the Potomac River, you will go crazy.
It's stupid. These politicians like Rand Paul, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Eric Cantor are so stupid because they think, we can get people to like us, and then they're going to vote for us. We'll say all these nice things about these people that broke our laws and are here illegally, and they're going to like us. Or we're going to say it's offensive to people if we ask them for a voter ID. They're going to like us.
Right.
We're never going to like it. They're never going to like us.
Like, I have a cousin in Florida who's a sales rep for is it Pepsi? I don't remember which is Pepsi, I believe it is. And if he's out there doing his job, selling as much Pepsi as he possibly can, he's not going to make Coca-Cola like him. Now, he doesn't have to be mean to them, but they're not going to like him because he's selling Pepsi-Cola.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being mean anymore, John, seriously. I mean, it's gotten very bitter. It's gotten very partisan. And, there's another thing that's bugging me, John, and I guess I'm going to get it out in the last minute that we have here. Well, we are not a sports show, but over this past weekend, the NFL held its draft. And in the very last round, a player was taken who openly professed that he's gay. Oh, the liberal media, the liberals, all the weenies, all the criers, oh, they love this now. But where were they? Where were they when Tim Tebow, a Christian, was being crucified because he professed his love and belief in Jesus Christ? Oh, he became the bad guy. But this guy who was drafted near the very end of the draft, be lucky if you'll ever make a team, well, just because he came out and said he's openly gay, all the liberal media love him. All the do-gooders now love him. I wish they would love Tim Tebow the same way and let both players either make it or not make it on the field to play. Hey, John, going to a break right now.
All right.
You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Schrader, coming to you live from the CCR studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioShow.com and CCRShow.com. John and I will be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are in a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org, patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of last Friday's show, well, the place for that is at cprworldwidemedia.com, cprworldwidemedia.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, place for that is vigilantlibertyradio.us, vigilantlibertyradio.us. And you could also join the John Mosley Exercise Club by listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show as you work out, walk, jog, anywhere that you can get telephone reception by calling 832-999-1199 and use your cell phone that has unlimited minutes. There's no extra cost for this call. So, John, how goes the exercise routine?
I've got a long way to go, but we need to do it. We know who we are, right?
Absolutely. Hey, John, we got a great show lined up for our guest today. In just a little bit, I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valite, and Dr. Valite has appeared on Fox News, Cavuto, Stuart Varney, and a bunch of other places. And Dr. Valite is going to be joining us to talk about one of her latest blogs, A Caliber Care Patient Protection, Act Harms Young Millennials. And maybe finally the word is getting out to all these young people that saw Barack the Messiah Obama as one of them, going to give them all these free things. Well, maybe Obamacare isn't going to be one of those free things that they were promised. So, John, who are you going to be speaking with today?
Well, the contrast actually couldn't be better with the Veterans Affairs Medical Network, because that's what we may all be looking forward to. So we're going to have Mark Flatten from the Washington Examiner delving in much deeper to the Veteran Affairs fiasco, and it's looking much worse, not just in one location, but across the country. The Government Accountability Office used to be the I forget what they used to be called. Anyway, GAO has done studies and is bringing out this awful truth. And this is really disastrous, because this is what we're putting our faith in terms of our medical care as we go forward. Then, in the last half hour, we're going to have Andrew Herod back, who's a writer with American Thinker and other places. He has written about. He's going to talk to us about what's going on with the kidnapped girls from Nigeria, and a lot of the behind-the-scenes manipulation of that, and what the Muslims are saying. And what it means in terms of the Islamic religion motivating it. He's just going to be coming to us from two events he's monitoring this morning and reporting on what's going on about that. And that will wrap it out there. Excuse me.
All right. So, indeed, we got a great show lined up. So, Jonathan, at this time of the day, I usually ask my co-host, what's on your radar screen?
And you hope they have something. I wanted to talk about...
They better, or I'm going to have to strike up a conversation with Mr. John Forsyth Jr., our own Silent John, and obviously that's going to have to go into the direction of sports. So,
I still want to get Silent John in a tuxedo, so we could have the only show with a silent sound man wearing a tuxedo. Anyway, what I want to talk about a bit is global warming a bit, and I understand that Rush Limbaugh got into this a little bit. Didn't catch it all. But not everybody can listen over the telephone to Rush Limbaugh, or as they're going about their way, as they can listen to our show. And I'm not sure all that he covered. But as you may have seen, there's a new study led by a researcher from the University of California at Northridge, and he is describing how it is now irreversible that the glaciers in Antarctica are going to disappear. Now, I heard discussions.
Oh, interesting.
What's that?
Very interesting. Irreversible. Irreversible.
Right,
I bet they said that about the last 4 ice ages over the last 100,000 years. You know, none of that ice was going to melt and refreeze, was it? No, that's right. It's irreversible.
Irreversible. So this
and
is
if it's irreversible, then why should we matter? Why should it matter anymore? If it's irreversible, oh, well, we lost. Let the damn ice melt.
Well, you have a point there. This is an interesting perspective.
Yes.
They're trying to, this is like Get Smart when he's trying to intimidate the bad guy, and he's saying, would you believe that this island is surrounded by the entire Sixth Fleet? And the guy goes, no. He works down to, would you believe a Boy Scout and his dog? So they keep trying to scare us with more and more things, but now they're scaring us with things like, what's the point now? But here's the problem I have, and I'm trying to figure out how to verify the temperatures in Antarctica at the glaciers without asking the same people who are trying to lie to us. What are the temperatures down there? And Rick Trader, I want to test your scientific knowledge. What temperature does ice melt?
It melts at 32 degrees.
Yeah.
It also freezes at 32 degrees.
Now, I understand that exactly.
That's Fahrenheit.
Although there is of course, a transitional period where you could add heat to ice and it won't raise temperature, and then it'll start melting. But the thing is that, so I see that in the winter it gets down to minus 70 degrees in Antarctica. I want to verify the highest it gets in the summer, but I believe it's something like minus 15 or minus 20 in the summer. So if you raise the temperature from, let's say, 4 degrees, let's say 5 degrees, the global temperature goes up 5 degrees from, say, minus 15 to minus 10. Okay, does ice melt? Has the temperature at which ice melts now changed under global warming? I mean, how does ice melt now at minus 10 degrees instead of minus 15 degrees?
John, can I interrupt you for a minute? Did he say the Arctic ice or the Antarctic ice?
Antarctic.
All right, well, I'm looking at an article right here in front of me from the Washington Post, September 23rd, 2013, that Antarctic sea ice hit a 35-year record high.
Oh, really?
Really, I'll send you the link. This is from the Washington Post. It's not, Washington Post is supposed to be a pretty credible newspaper, pretty credible source. All right, it's not one of these internet fly-by websites with all types of conspiracies on it. Arctic sea ice hit a 35-year record high on Saturday, and again, this was September of 2013. Antarctic sea ice has grown to a record large extent for the second straight year, baffling scientists seeking to understand why this ice is expanding rather than shrinking in a warming world. Whoa! What's this?
Well, let me ask you a similar question, Rick Trader. How come when the water runs down the rivers, it doesn't run out? It's called rain and snow, and it goes back where it came from. It's an amazing concept here. The rivers don't all just run out. There's more rain coming. Eric Rignot, a glaciologist at the University of California at Irvine, and the lead author of the study, apparently doesn't get the Washington Post. He has his study has been accepted for publication in the journal Geophysical Research Letters, and he says the sea level is now going to go up by 4 feet, which is where I am. It's fine with me. And it could actually go up, I guess 4 meters, like 12, maybe 12 feet. He says because these glaciers are going to.
John, I think he's drinking from the same Kool-Aid that Al Gore guy is making.
Rand Paul and he were out drinking, maybe.
Al Gore,
Oh, Al Gore too, yeah.
Hey, John, guess what? Another break. I can't believe time flies when it is.
Okay.
You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget you can hear our show now anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandersRadioShow.com and CCRShow.com. Jonathan Mosley and I will be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, the smiling comes I know, only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and yours truly, Rick Trader. And a program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to please log on to patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of Friday's show, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. Click on that Listen Live link. And joining us now is our very first guest of the day, Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valette. Dr. Valette has appeared on Fox News, Cavuto, Stuart Varney's show, Fox and Friends, and syndicated radio shows across the country addressing the economic and medical impact of Obamacare. Dr. Valette, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Well, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be back with you. You guys are doing a great job.
Well, thank you, as are you, Dr. Vliet. We've asked you to join us today to talk about one of your latest writings, Accountable Care, Patient Protection, Act Harms Young Millennials. So these young people, Doctor, that voted for Barack Obama the past couple times, are they finally waking up to something?
Well, I think they're really getting hit hard with the rise in health insurance premiums and the higher deductibles, fewer doctors to choose from and fewer hospitals to choose from, as well as the fact that the new Obamacare compliant health insurance policies require young people, including men who aren't married, to have pregnancy coverage and maternity coverage. So it's an insane approach to health care to make people buy policies and coverage that they don't need, and at a time when young people are facing a much more difficult job market than ever before. The non-employment rate among young people has skyrocketed since 2000, when the U.S. had the lowest unemployment rate among 18 to 34-year-olds, and now almost half of unemployed people in this country are in that age range, 18 to 34. It's staggering.
Well, Dr. Vliet, I think the young millennials made the same mistake that those lawmakers down in Washington made. They never read the bill. And could you blame them? This darn thing was like 2,600 pages of legalese gobbledygook. I doubt that the people who wrote it totally understood what was in that bill. But
well, I think the people who wrote it knew exactly what they were doing. The goal has been all along, and they've said it on record. The goal has been to collapse the private insurance market, drive people out of employer-based insurance, health insurance, and push them into a single-payer, government-controlled, top-down model like Canada has had for many decades.
Well, I think,
They didn't read it.
Right. I think another thing, Doctor, with young people, I think that they believe that they are invincible to begin with. And I've spoken to a lot. I remember a conversation I had in an antique shop in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, before this bill was passed. Got into a little bit of a heated political debate. A lady was in this antique shop saying that, we've got to get this bill passed. We got to get it passed right away for people like her 28-year-old son who worked for Blockbuster and at the time was offered a health care plan for $28 a paycheck, which I thought was very cheap. But he didn't see the need in it. But she thought it was very important that he have it because he was a very heavy smoker. Doctor, I know when I was 28 years old, I don't necessarily know that I thought I needed health insurance because I thought I was invincible. I was mistaken. But I think that a lot of young people also have that mindset. So when it comes to Obamacare, they thought, well, I'm going to get it free anyway, so why should I care?
Well, I think you're right, but it's certainly not free. And what they're finding is that on average, with just a silver classic plan, they're paying 10% of their income and sometimes more just to have the policy that covers things they don't need, but also they've got a $4,000 or $5,000 deductible before the insurance even kicks in. Mm-hmm. And they have less income than baby boomers during the same age range. They don't have the job prospects, and they will be paying for generations to support the expanded cost of all of this.
Right.
It's truly a huge impact on young people. And I think many of them will do the math and decide that, well, I just won't buy it, I won't enroll, and if I get sick, then I'll buy a policy, because now they can do that.
Right. Dr. Valid, in your article, you wrote, here are the top 8 ACA harms to young millennials. Could you go through some of them for us?
Well, we talked about the increase in the premiums. An average young person making $25,000 a year in Arizona is going to pay roughly $2,500 a year in insurance premiums, whereas before Obamacare, they might have paid $600 to $1,000 per year. And in Illinois, as another example, a young person making $25,000 is going to pay $3,500 in health insurance premiums for just a classic silver plan. That's not even the top plan. So you're looking at those costs. You're also looking at the harm of the higher deductible, double and triple and quadruple, what the deductibles used to be. They are also being hurt by the fact that the millennials are the generation that are subsidizing the insurance for older people and for the expansion of Medicaid. So they're getting hit from all directions. Less income, fewer job opportunities, higher costs, and they're paying for the expanded entitlements for other people.
Dr. Valid, I'd like to tell you about a conversation that I had with someone at my church on Christmas Eve. And this lady was on a crutch, and she was hobbling around. She was pretty bad off. And I asked her, why the need of the crutch, and she said that she needed a hip replacement. Now, I'm an expert at hip replacements, having gone through 2 myself. I believe that a hip replacement gave me my life back again, and I encouraged her. I said, to get this done. You'll be amazed what a change it's going to make in your life. And what she said to me, and this wasn't a young person, doctor, this was a person of middle age, someone who you would think would be more secure in their life. What she said was, yes, she knows she had to have it done. She wanted to have it done, but because of her insurance, with a $6,000 deductible, couldn't have it done.
I am hearing that from other patients. The denials for procedures, the delays in access to care, the denials for medications, all of these have exponentially increased since January 1st, when Obamacare went into effect. And patients, more people needed to pay attention to the warnings that many of us have been giving for the last 5 years, that this is what was coming if the government was going to decide all of the details of health insurance, from what kind of policy you could buy, to how the insurance companies had to rate it, to what the standards were for coverage, and all of this. When the insurance and government entities pay for your medical care, they decide what you get and when you get it.
Doctor, we're going to have to take a break in about 10 seconds, but could you hold through the break, please?
Sure.
All right, but before I do, I wanted to mention every time I hear about young people and their new deductibles, it reminds me of that Sandra Fluke, who said she couldn't afford $10 a month for birth control, so that's why she needed Obamacare. I wonder how she likes paying these high deductibles now. But we're going to take a little break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1316 around the world on the internet. Our guest this segment is Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valid, and we're talking about accountable care, patient protection, and how it's harming young millennials. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, the smiling coast I know, only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org, patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m. when our live broadcast ends, you can hear a rebroadcast of last Friday's show at cprworldwidemedia.com. And don't forget you can hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And our guest this segment is Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valite. And Dr. Valite is the 2007 recipient of the Voice of Woman Award for the Arizona Foundation for Women for her pioneering advocacy for the overlooked hormone connections in women's health. That seems to be a topic for another conversation. Dr. Valite, thanks for holding through the break.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
Well, we always enjoy it. Dr. Valite, was I being real facetious when I made that Sandra Fluke comment that her $10 a month birth control is now costing her a whole lot more?
I think it was outrageous that she wanted the taxpayers to pay for her $10 a month birth control bill, for heaven's sakes. You know, if people need to start taking responsibility for small costs like that and use health insurance for what it was meant to be, which is covering the risk of a catastrophic situation, like car insurance. You don't expect your car insurance to cover every oil change and every gasoline fill-up and tire rotation. And if it did do all of that, it would be $15,000 a year in cost. We buy car insurance to insure against an accident and injury that could be financially devastating. We need to get back to that kind of true health insurance. What we have now is prepaid health care, and you pay the premiums and somebody else decides what you get. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. Free markets have not been allowed to work in health care since the 1940s and 50s.
Dr. Valite, in your article, you mentioned several things, and we've talked a little bit about them here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, how this is affecting the young. Number one, their premiums are going up. Number two, their deductibles are going up. Number three, that the job situation is being hurt, that jobs are not being created. And I would just like to throw into that, Doctor, the jobs that are being created are not necessarily the kinds of jobs that people can get where they're covered by medical care. In fact, last month when the jobs report came out,
creating part-time jobs now.
Right. When the employment numbers came out, the accurate employment numbers, there were a little over 100,000 jobs created, but less than 8,000 of those jobs are manufacturing-type jobs. Half of that was in the auto industry, and most of the remaining jobs that were created in retail and the food industry. Now, Doctor, those kinds of jobs are jobs like at McDonald's and Walmart. Good jobs, I'm not bashing them. But what I'm saying is those are part-time jobs where the employers are not going to have to pay for people's insurance.
Well, that's exactly right. And they're not exactly the same type of career opportunities that normally young people had graduating from college in previous generations. So the millennials are graduating from college now with higher debt load, and the types of jobs available to them don't have the same income earning potential that they've had in years past. So I think that they need to wake up as a group of young people across the country. They really need to wake up and see that the politicians have really sold them down the river and used them as pawns for a political agenda to expand the entitlements and get more people on the government dole while putting that burden on the back of young people. And they need to speak up and advocate for free market reforms, put the power and control back in the hands of the patient and in the consumer. Millennials customize their smartphones to an infinite degree of variety of options, and yet they're being forced to buy a one-size-fits-all health insurance policy. That makes sense.
It certainly doesn't.
They need to wake up and speak up and start voting out the politicians that are not answering to their needs.
This segment on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valite, and Dr. Valite has written an article, Accountable Care, Patient Protection, Act Harms Young Millennials. Doctor, on the other line, I do have my co-host, Jonathan Mosley, who wants to get into this conversation. John?
Yeah, so thanks for letting me in here. Very thought-provoking. A lot of this, I guess, is going to be in the minds of millennials, in the sense that if they were paying attention to begin with, they wouldn't have gotten here. So the question is, when do they wake up? And I don't think any of us know that. But I wanted to ask some things that were prompted by your discussion. We were sold on this idea that people previously were going to run into the emergency room and get free care that way. Now we've got $6,000 deductibles, and let me stop, and maybe I should ask first. You're pretty sure that those aren't just rare anecdotes. That's pretty solid. Is that right? That we have 5,000.
The range on the new policies runs anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000, depending on the policy, depending on the state.
And I think that for families, I've heard up to 12,000. I don't know.
That's right. Family of four is going to be looking at deductibles ranging from 8,000 to 12,000, but I was focused more on the individual market.
Right. I just want to be clear. So the thing is that the whole reason for doing, or part of the reason for doing this ostensibly, other than the real reason you mentioned about destroying the system, but what we were told was the reason was to avoid this situation where people can't afford health care, and what's going to happen in terms of somebody can't pay their $6,000, $8,000, family of four can't pay their $12,000 deductible? That's any different from what was going on before when they go to the emergency room and stick the ER with the bill?
Well, no, there's really not, because they still, patients have not been turned away from medical care in the United States in hospitals and emergency rooms since the federal law went into effect in 1986, that it didn't matter whether you had insurance, the hospital could not turn you away. What happened was the taxpayers and the people with private insurance subsidized those who didn't have it. Now, what's happening now is we're still seeing high emergency room utilization, which is a very expensive way to deliver care. because with the increase in people coming into the system under the expansion of Medicaid and the exchange policies and all of the rest, there are more people than doctors. They didn't create any new doctors or any new nurse practitioners. So there's still a problem in the delivery side, and people are going to the emergency room to get faster service, get an appointment. They go for things they don't need, for sore throats and earaches, things that used to be taken care of in a primary care doctor's office. So,
of course, one of the differences. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, these are the parts of the system that are broken, that are still broken, and the medical care itself was always the best in the world, and it still is. We've got to get back to patient-centered, market-centered approaches that work, that bring down the cost. Look at LASIK eye surgery, for example. That's not covered by insurance, and people who want it pay for it, and by more and more competition, it's brought the price way down. It used to be $20,000 an eye. Now it's $1,500 an eye, or thereabouts, depending on the center. My point is that competition and the free market will bring the price down if people are able to engage in the consumer choice of products based on value.
Well, Doctor, earlier you said that before all this, the premiums were much cheaper. If all those insurers said, let's get together and triple or quadruple our premiums, they couldn't have done it. But what they've done is they've got the government to do it for them. So now it's illegal to sell for less, so they've all managed to increase their premiums.
Well, let's put the blame where it belongs. The premiums went up because of the government mandates to expand the coverage. The insurance companies were not trying to do that. They've wanted to sell a variety of products to be able to reach a broader market share. They are, under the law, having to offer only policies that are compliant with the new law. My own small business policy for myself and my employees was canceled due to the Obamacare requirements. And our plan was a very cost-effective one, but it was a plain vanilla policy. So it's not the insurance companies are being made to be the scapegoat, and I'm no fan of the big insurance companies, but my point is they are the scapegoat. The government made the rules that they have to comply with. Hey, listen, guys, I just wanted to let you know, if I lose you briefly...
Well, Doctor, we're right up against the end of our segment. Could you tell people where they can go to follow your writings?
Yes. Follow me on Twitter at Health and Sense, HEALTHANDCENTS, and there'll be links to a lot of my articles and comments that I make on these different issues. My articles are also posted on aapsonline.org. We have another site called patientpoweramerica.com.
Dr. Elizabeth Lee Valita, I want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. And, Doctor, let me tell you how glad I am to be older than dirt. When I look at what the millennials are facing, they're facing higher premiums, higher deductibles, cutting employment opportunities, mounting student debt, mounting federal debt that's going to be their responsibility. I like where I am in life. I wouldn't want to trade places with them, would you?
I would agree with you, but we got to help them wake up. And thank you for all you're doing, because they got to get out and vote these politicians out that are putting the burdens on them and the rest of us.
Doctor, what it means is elections have consequences, don't they?
That's exactly right. Your vote has a consequence. You better get out and exercise it.
All right, thanks for joining us today. We're going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan and Rick, coming to you from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet. Don't go away. John and I will be back with our next guest, Mark Flatt.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Benier and Christina Lamb and hundreds of Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host every day, Rick Trader, and your co-host for today, Jonathan Mosley. And I'm going to bring in our next guest, who is Mark Flatton. He is a investigative reporter with the Washington Examiner. Mark Flatton is an award-winning investigative and political reporter for 3 Arizona newspapers. Among his many citations are the Arizona Newspaper Association's Freedom of Information Award in 2011, the Society of Professional Journalists First Amendment Award in 2010, and the Arizona Press Club's Don Bolus Award for Investigative Journalism in 2005. And he has been following Veterans Affairs unfolding scandal here, and we want to welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Mark Flatton.
Thank you very much for having me.
Are you there?
I am here. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, this is growing almost by the hour here, and I want to get into both what you have here that's new and also make sure we don't leave people behind along the way and summarize again what we're dealing with here. But as I understand it, this started out in one VA center, and it's turning out to be much broader than that. Is that right?
Well, actually, this has gone on before. We've heard a lot about what's going on in Phoenix in recent weeks, but actually, this has been building in the news for much longer than that. It seems to have started, at least in sort of the national consciousness, way back in September when the VA Inspector General produced a report linking 6 patient deaths in Columbia, South Carolina, to delayed colonoscopies, which ultimately led these veterans to develop inoperable. They got colon cancer that by the time it was detected became inoperable. That triggered a series of other investigations or more scrutiny of the agency, and ultimately we started finding very similar problems across the country. We found patient deaths in Atlanta, in Texas, in Tennessee. Same story over and over. Patients can't get the care they need, and it had tragic consequences. What we're seeing what we saw in Phoenix recently, and this was brought to light by Jeff Miller, the chairman of the House Veterans Committee, is that as pressure has mounted on these VA hospitals to bring down their backlogs of medical treatment, what happened in Phoenix is they would actually create 2 sets of books. So if you went in and saw your doctor and he referred you to, say, a cardiologist, and VA's rules say you need to see that cardiologist within 30 days, what they were doing in Phoenix was you might wait 6 months to get the appointment, but they would not put you in the official appointment book until your appointment was 2 weeks out. So by VA statistics, it looked like you'd only been waiting 2 weeks, when in fact you may have been waiting for months. And so that's kind of where we're at now in terms of that issue.
There was an old joke when we had the Soviet Union, and some of us followed it, that if they measured it by how many nails the factory would make, they'd make little tiny nails. If they measured it by how much weight, they'd make one gigantic nail to play with the statistics. But let's make sure we don't. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's actually a lot of truth in that, and that truly is part of the underlying problem. VA has policies that says you must meet these deadlines. You're not allowed to have these backlogs of whether it be health care, which is the issue today, or processing disability claims benefits, which was the big issue a year ago. But VA has numbers that these individual hospitals are supposed to meet. So if you've got a huge backlog of cases, of medical orders, there are different ways you can deal with it. You can do what's right and make sure that the veteran gets the care they need and eliminate the backlog that way, or you can find ways to manipulate the numbers and cook the books, which on paper will make your numbers look good, but it doesn't do anything to get the veterans the care they need. And that's the problem, is they put the focus on making their numbers look good as opposed to delivering the care.
Wow, that's deep. That's a terrible but true way to say it. Well, now, again, let's make sure we're not assuming too much, because I'm sure people have heard of the Veterans Administration, but we don't spend a lot of time thinking about, or I guess it's now the Department of Veterans Affairs. We don't spend that much time thinking about it. So when our boys and girls in uniform come back, and we've made this promise, instead of paying them what their work is worth, we're going to give them medical care. There's this whole network that gives them the medical care, right? And am I correct in understanding that that's exclusive? Yeah. They can't just go down to the street to the normal hospital or doctor?
Well, they can. You can certainly go to a doctor or a hospital. They can't prevent you from seeing a private provider. The problem is many of these individuals have relied on VA medical care. That's where their doctors are. That's where their records are, and they've trusted VA. These veterans have fulfilled their part of the bargain. And this is not just veterans who were, for instance, injured in combat. This might be an individual that was in country in Vietnam exposed to Agent Orange, and now he's got, some type of cancer linked to Agent Orange, or it might be a veteran even who was injured in a non-combat capacity. So there are a variety of ways that these veterans qualify for VA medical care. Some of them, can't really afford to go into the private sector. Some of them can. Some of them do. But these are people that are putting their trust in the VA healthcare system because that's part of the deal. I mean, that was part of the deal when they became veterans, and they expected that they were there when the country needed them. They assumed the country would be there for them. So a lot of these veterans are kind of in the system. They're not legally stuck in the system, but as a practical reality, they are stuck in the system.
That's somewhat like you're paying for the public schools. You could go to a private school if you could afford it, but you got to pay for the public school no matter what.
Yes, and many of these veterans can't afford, to go outside the system, or some of them are in circumstances where, you'll go to your VA doctor. You're happy with your VA doctor. He will refer you for instance, for a colonoscopy, and you trust your doctor. You trust that he is looking out for your medical care. So if you can't get that colonoscopy when you're supposed to, a lot of times these veterans have no way of knowing how long they're supposed to wait. So they put in their paperwork and request the appointment and know that VA will get back to them when they have an appointment available. So unfortunately, that may be weeks or months, and by then what could have been detected early as for instance, the stage 1 colorectal cancer is now stage 4 and inoperable. So time is critical in many of these medical care instances.
I mean, this is. I want to get into the details, but that just irritates me because we're all hearing all this talk about saving money by preventative care. I mean, this ultimately could be costing the VA system a lot more money by not catching problems early. So you report on work by the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, and they're digging deeper into this. And what are they finding out?
Well, one of the stories we had recently dealt with essentially a mass purge of backlogged medical orders. Now, VA. So if you go to your doctor at the VA, they will write, and you need follow-up care of some sort. They will write what they call a consult order, and that just basically is a referral for additional medical care. It might be testing, it might be physical therapy, something like that. Well, VA found out that they had about 2 million of these things backlogged, which means that they were well beyond the deadline set in VA's own policy. VA went in, and instead of individually reviewing them, they just went in and mass closed them. Just started closing out old medical orders just to take them off the books. Now, there is a procedure for doing that, and VA insists that they did not close any medical orders unless they were individually reviewed and determined that the veteran no longer needed the care. The problem is, as we found in our reporting, when the Government Accountability Office went in there and investigated and actually went through these case files, in many of these there was absolutely no indication. So it's pretty clear they went in and just mass closed thousands, actually 1.5 million of these backlog medical orders with absolutely no guarantee that the veteran got the care that had been recommended. So again, it's the priority becomes, how do we make these numbers look good? How do we get these 2 million cases out of our backlog? Do we deliver the care to the veterans? Well, boy, that's hard to do. Or do we just go in and mass purge them? Or do we keep 2 sets of books to make it look like our wait times aren't very long? These are the kinds of things that VA that has sprung up in VA facilities across the country. Essentially mechanisms to make their numbers look good without actually delivering the care that the veterans require.
And we had somebody on for Concerned Veterans of America last week making the argument that I guess the budget is really big and should be big enough to actually deliver the care, that it really shouldn't be a problem, and I guess that's a matter of opinion. But do you remember Martha Stewart, who did not go to jail for insider trading, but for lying to the government? Here, this is like I guess a massive scheme of lying to superiors and to Congress. Is that right?
Well, there's some question as to how much folks at the local offices are lying to the superiors within the agency. That one of the big questions that remains unresolved is are these problems coming from the bottom up, or are they coming from the top down? Now, it's part of the problem in sort of pinning them down as lying to Congress is that that VA, whenever they do appear in front of Congress, they lack any sort of transparency whatsoever. They have their talking points, and they will stick to those talking points. And very often, this is, I don't know whether it's comical or frustrating, but whether it's a member of the media or people in Congress will ask a VA witness a direct question, and VA's people will answer a completely unrelated question. So it's very hard to pin them down in terms of... Yeah. But they do insist that no patient that they're committed to patient care, and no veterans have been harmed, and things like that. Which, even if you give them the benefit of the doubt, there comes a point where we've seen the same thing going on in facility after facility after facility. Eventually, there comes a point that just sort of canned answers don't cut it anymore.
All right, we have to take a 2-minute break. I hope you can hold on for two minutes.
Absolutely.
All right, we are going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader coming to you from the CCRS studios. That of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly. The way we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet at cprworldwidemedia.com, patriotsride.org, vigilantlibertyradio.us, and don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. John and I are speaking with Mark Platt. Be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And a program note, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org, patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m. when we end our live broadcast, if you'd like to hear a repeat of Friday's show, please please log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com, CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And tomorrow afternoon, if you'd like to hear a repeat of today's show, please check out VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Our guest this segment is Mark Flatten. He's an investigative reporter for the Washington Examiner. Mark, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
No problem at all.
Mark, we're speaking with Mark about an article that he wrote on for the Washington Examiner. Veteran Affairs officials purge 1.5 million unfinished medical orders. Mark, can a connection be made somehow, some way, between what's going on at the VA and Obamacare? And is this as a result of the sequestration that Barack Obama wanted and cutting the military budget?
Well, no, this has got nothing to do with sequestration. In fact, VA's health system is exempt from sequestration and was when it occurred. I guess I'll leave it to others to debate the relative merits to Obamacare. But what I will say is the problems from the people I'm talking to, including a lot of people inside VA. If you look at the frontline medical providers, the doctors, the nurses, most of them are very caring people. They want to help their veterans. Most of the problems we're seeing are not necessarily face-to-face problems. They're problems with the bureaucracy.
Right.
Bureaucracy running the system that puts a higher premium on numbers, on making the numbers look good than it does on delivering the care to the veterans. That's consistently what I've heard from people both inside and outside of the VA. And I give you one example if you got just 30 seconds.
Sure, absolutely.
I mentioned the Columbia, South Carolina facility earlier where there was a huge backlog in delivering colonoscopies. The facility let Congress know, hey, we've got this backlog. We need additional funds to allow us to refer patients to outside providers so that we can get this backlog done. Congress appropriated the funds. If there is a bipartisan issue in Congress, it is veterans care, and they appropriated $1 million, sent the money down there. That money disappeared. It was not used to fund outside referrals for colonoscopies. VA to this day has not explained where that money went. So when people say, "Oh, it's purely a money issue," that begs the question: well, if it's purely a money issue, why didn't they use that $1 million for patient care? Why did they use it for other things that they still cannot explain? So I just use that as an illustrative example on that point.
Well, Mark, I think you explain in your article where some of this money has gone, which is rather disturbing to me, considering that what we're hearing, that you write in your article, after the Examiner story was published, Republican Representatives Kevin McCarthy and Dan Benziek from Michigan ask for an internal investigation. And here's the part that bothered me. Performance and review bonuses are tied in part to meeting agency goals for reducing patient waiting times. And as Sharon Helm, who's the director of the Phoenix VA health system, where apparently a lot of these problems are coming from, got a $9,300 bonus.
Oh, that's not at all unusual. We've seen this at medical centers across the country. And again, Phoenix is just the one we're talking about now.
Right.
I mean, there have been very similar things and confirmed deaths at VA hospitals all across the country. And consistently, the people running those medical facilities are far more likely to get a 5-figure bonus than they are to get disciplined in any way.
That's incredible.
The poster child on the bonuses is a guy that used to run the region in Pittsburgh, where they had a half dozen preventable patient deaths due to Legionnaire's disease. He got a $63,000 bonus. I think it was actually awarded 3 days
How
out.
much?
Yes.
How much was that?
$63,000, single-year bonus. It was a presidential merit bonus for the wonderful work he did. At the same time that six preventable patients' deaths occurred because of Legionnaire's disease. That is now most of the bonuses aren't that big. Most of them average a little less than $10,000. But still, it's the principle. Patients are dying in your care, and you're getting 5-figure bonuses. There's the disconnect there.
Mark, when you talk about the care from region to region, I think it also changes. I think it's also different within the region. Just the other day, I was having a conversation with a neighbor who is a veteran, and he was telling me that he goes to the VA for care, but he tells me what offices to go to. He says, well, Philly's very good. The one in Jersey's not very good. The one in Delaware is okay. So even within a region, very, very close proximity to each other, care changes from office to office.
Well, it might also change from procedure to procedure. I mean, if you're a patient that all you need to do is go in and get an annual physical from your doctor, and you don't have any serious health issues, and you get in, you see them. Occasionally, you might get sick, and they'll give you some prescriptions. That might be fine. But if you have a serious condition, if you need something to detect colon cancer or a heart defect, and you need serious medical tests, you may be put on a backlog. You may become part of that backlog. So not only does it vary from region to region or facility to facility, it may even vary from condition to condition.
Wow. So, Mark, what this is telling me, at least, you got to be your own advocate. Hey, Mark, I wanted to bring John Mosley back into the conversation. John?
Yeah, well, first, Mark Flatten of the Washington Examiner. Sounds like, how about you and I go down there and get one of those jobs where they have $63,000 bonuses? You don't happen to, maybe I missed it. What kind of grade level in government speak was that?
Well, this was for a gentleman named Michael Moreland, who was the regional director for the Pennsylvania and a couple parts of other states area. It was a one-time presidential merit bonus that was awarded at the same, literally for the same time period that patients were dying at the hospital in Pittsburgh, which was under his region. So he was a senior executive. This was top level management executive, and people like that consistently get bonuses. The medical director of the top administrator in Phoenix got a large bonus, I believe, last year. We've seen that in Columbia, South Carolina, where we've had patient deaths. We've seen it in place after place. So it's not just an isolated incident here or there, and it's not just some clerk screwed up and created this ridiculous policy at one hospital. We're seeing the same thing consistently in hospital after hospital after hospital, and region after region.
Yeah, and over a long, I don't know that the VA has ever been well run. Maybe if you go back far enough, but it's hard to imagine anybody getting a bonus at the VA, at least until maybe if somebody turned it around, I'd be happy to give them a $63,000 bonus.
Well, in fact, the House unanimously passed a piece of legislation that would suspend bonuses for top VA administrators, I believe, through 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like I said, unless they work some kind of turnaround miracle. I noticed that you sent a bunch of documentation that went along with your article, I think, and there was a blog response listed in one of the letters. We only have probably about a minute or so left. But I noticed that they refute this by saying that it's not true that medical records were destroyed, which, of course, wasn't the question. It's a typical, you mentioned earlier, a dodge, the kind of dodging the question.
Perfect example. You ask them a straight question, they will answer something completely different, which is part of how they evade responsibility and how they evade being pinned down on a specific question. Another example of that was at a congressional hearing. Robert Petzel, the Undersecretary for Health, was asked about an earlier story I did about 40,000 cases being purged in Los Angeles. He answered a completely unrelated question about 300 X-rays being deleted or something like that. So that's part of the dodge.
Jeez, bureaucracy. Just love it. I think I want to ask a question. Well, I guess we got a break now. We're out of time. I wanted to ask you some other things. Can you tell, I guess, what is the Examiner's... people will follow you at the Examiner website, right? What's the website?
At WashingtonExaminer.com.
Well, thank you so much, Mark Flatten, for joining us, and I guess we're out of time. Mark?
All right. Thank you for having me.
Okay, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, as we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and around the world on the Internet. Hey, check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com. 2 different sites, different information on each one of them. Don't go away. John and I will be right back with our next guest, Andrew Harry.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
The Obama attack on our Constitution continues. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com and join J.D. Manier and Christina Lamb, Reagan conservative commandos who demand our country return to its founding documents and principles. We are part of the nation's oldest and largest GOP volunteer organization, the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. We register voters, endorse conservative candidates, and dig deep to give you the truth on the big issues. We are fighting to do what Lincoln proclaimed 150 years ago. Let the people know the facts and the nation will be free. Help support the Conservative Commando Radio Show with your donation today. Log on to INRASuperPAC.com. INRASuperPAC.com.
Now hear this. Man your battle stations.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of Friday's show, At 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. That's CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And you can hear a repeat broadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And, John, we do have our next guest with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours.
All right, great. Andrew Herod is an independent researcher and writer specializing in international relations. Along with articles in print, he has written over 50 online articles for websites such as The American Thinker and Front Page Magazine. He holds a Ph.D. from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and a Juris Doctor from the George Washington University School of Law. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Andrew Herod.
Oh, it's always great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm calling in once again from the offices of the Center for Security Policy, who have given me access to a landline here for the event.
Led by Frank Gaffney, a friend of the show, we'd like to think. I understand you've been about town down there inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. today.
Oh, well, I went to a couple of events. One, there was a Hudson Institute, whether it's first the Center for Strategic and International Studies briefing with a Dr. Zuhdi Yasser, Vice Chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, and some of his associates. They returned from a trip to Nigeria, analyzing issues of religious freedom in Nigeria and conflicts between Muslims and Christians there and the various depredations of Boko Haram. And then that was followed by a presentation at the Hudson Institute with Emmanuel Ogebe from the Jubilee campaign, he's associated with the Jubilee campaign, but he works for another, I believe, I forget the name, Liberty for Jost, or Justice for Jost organization dealing with issues of Boko Haram and religious freedom issues of Christians in Nigeria. And he presented a survivor of Boko Haram violence, the second survivor of Boko Haram violence to visit the United States, this time a female young lady currently going to school in Nigeria, in the United States, whose family was wiped out in a Boko Haram attack in Borno State near the Chibok area where this recent kidnapping of Nigerian girls took place on April 14th. Some 276 Nigerian girls, and the majority of them Christian, were kidnapped by Boko Haram jihadist terrorists. And she actually knew some of these girls as her playmates who were kidnapped. So these two presentations took place here today in D.C.
Wow. Well, there's always tension between making sure we place things in context and bring everyone up to speed and also jumping in with the new stuff. So let's step back for a moment and remind people of, you're talking about we're focused at the moment mainly on the almost 300 girls who were kidnapped out of a Nigerian school. I don't know if it was a Christian school per se, but they were not.
It was a government school, but it was in a predominantly Christian area. And government schools are also often frequented by Christians because Muslims will often send their children to specifically Muslim schools, madrasas.
So by sort of self-selection there. And also, I wonder if you could remind people or bring people up to speed in terms of the situation in Nigeria. Big country, perhaps even bigger than I realized in some of the things I'm hearing recently, right?
Yes, I believe the population is somewhere about 160 million or so. It is indeed the most populous country in all of Africa. I guess Egypt is the second largest with some 80-plus million people. So it's sort of a regional leader in Africa, the most populous, also an oil-producing nation. Indeed, by the discussion was today at some of the events that because of its oil, it's actually perhaps the wealthiest country in Africa. So a large country population-wise, and with its oil resources, at least great potential wealth, a significant player on the African scene, a regional leader in organizations like the African Union, a long-standing tradition of participation in, say, peacekeeping missions in Africa and beyond.
And it's about half the population of the United States of America, and like many nations in Africa, surprisingly, I spent about 2 weeks in Kenya a million years ago, and Christian or Christian-leaning nation until recently. Is that right?
Well, Nigeria has always been noted as being kind of split 50-50 north to south, Muslim majority north, and a Christian-majority South. Indeed, Nigeria, because of its Muslim population, is also a member of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It's one of the 57 member states, including the OIC's recognition of Palestine in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
But that's currently in conflict. The Muslim are trying to take it over. Am I overstating?
Well, groups like Boko Haram are indeed waging sort of a campaign of terror, precisely to at least sort of cleanse the north of any sort of Christian or other influence, and to be able to set up Muslim ruled societies there, implementation of Sharia law and such. So these campaigns of terror against various Christian communities there are designed to ultimately drive them out and at least bring northern Nigeria under a Muslim control.
All right, well, with that background, let's zero in on what you're developing new here. You've got written at Investigative Project, which is that's Stephen Emerson of the Investigative Project on Terrorism
right,
website.
Correct. Stephen Emerson, the general, heads the Investigative Project on Terrorism.
Right, and you've written here the deceptive Islamist support for Nigerian girls, and I guess you've been covering that as early as this morning, as you mentioned, and I think maybe 2-3 weeks ago. Never heard of Boko Haram myself. What are you learning about this group that would, as people, I think everyone probably knows by now, not only has kidnapped these school girls, but taunted that they're going to sell them for as sex slaves or wives or slaves, and that Allah, tells them to sell them, and taunting on video their plans to do so. What are you learning about these people?
Well, Boko Haram, the issue has actually been around for quite some time, but has now really exploded on the international scene with this kidnapping of 276 girls this last April 14th. But they've been waging just an atrocious campaign of terror, as was discussed today by Emmanuel Ogebe and others. They've done things, for example, they'll go into villages and they'll mark the homes of Christian families at night, so you can pinpoint exactly where the Christian families are. And then later they can come in and kill the inhabitants of those dwellings, and thereby either kill or drive out the Christian communities there. Many of the Christians from northern Nigeria, they've either become internally displaced persons, IDPs within Nigeria, or now more recently they're being forced across the border into neighboring countries of Cameroon and Niger, so actual refugees, international refugees driven out of the country. Boko Haram, the name is from the Hausa language. It's a slang name. It translates roughly, as it's often called, to Western education is sin. Boko is a sort of corruption of book in the Hausa language, so therefore book or Western book, and haram is the Arabic word, Muslim Arabic word for prohibited, so literally sort of book learning, or the connotation there is Western education is prohibited, Western education is sin. That's the slang name. Their Arabic name, I'm trying to think of it now, it's such a long name, and I've seen it in print, and I don't even know how to pronounce it perhaps accurately. It's their official Arabic name, Muslim Arabic name, is the Congregation of the People for the Propagation of the Prophet's Sunnah and Jihad. That is the Prophet's teachings, the Sunnah, the traditions of prophets. So it has a long, formal Arabic name, really indicating its Islamic ideology and origins. It's a group that's been around since about its origins in 2010, first starting out sort of a Muslim congregation and having progressive more run-ins with federal authorities, and is currently and has, as has been indicated, has engaged in all sorts of terrorist activities, killings, and brutal incidents. There was, for example, Emmanuel Ogebe described at a previous briefing a couple of months ago, they set up a fake checkpoint with government army uniforms and simply stopped everyone at a road, has something like a mile-long traffic jam backed up, and then they simply went down the line of the cars and looking at identity cards of the individuals, checking their identity cards to try to determine who is Christian and who is Muslim, and then they would simply kill the Christians. They've also engaged in various bombing attacks. For example, on August 26, 2011, attack on UN headquarters of UN operations in Nigeria, in Nigeria's capital of Abuja, and before that, in June of 2011, they attacked a police barracks in Nigeria. they've become sort of progressively more sophisticated, and indeed various analysts have worried that they're actually, in many cases, better armed than Nigerian security forces, than the army.
Okay, Andrew, can we pick it up after a 2-minute break, and we'll ask you for an update. Thanks.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Jonathan Mosley and Rick Trader, and we're coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, as we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, and around the world on the internet via CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, VigilantLibertyRadio.us, and don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. John and I are speaking with Andrew Harris.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host every day, Rick Trader, and I am your co-host for today, John Mosley, and we're bringing back Andrew Herod, a writer on international relations issues, talking about the girls kidnapped in Nigeria. Now, well, let's get into a little bit of, you're finding out some, you're exploring the disagreement about what is Boko Haram. You have an article up on Steve Emerson's website, the Investigative Project on Terrorism. I remember hearing Steve Emerson warning about some of these things before 9/11. What is the dispute about whether Boko Haram is or is not an example of Islamic terrorism?
Well, in the past, there's been arguments of looking at the conflict in Nigeria as being more of kind of a socioeconomic conflict with roots in socioeconomic deprivation of more wealthy South. I mean, the oil wealth in particular is concentrated in the South, and historically more deprived North, going back really decades, or back to the time of British colonial rule. Saying, well, for example, one statement in 2012, in April of 2012, at the Center for Strategic and International Studies by the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Johnny Carson, he made this one statement that Many individuals like Emmanuel Agebe and others have really sort of mocked and sort of a classic statement that violence from Boko Haram and others in northern Nigeria had its causes in the poor delivery of government services. Arguments that the government's corrupt and there's poverty in the north and so therefore people are angry and therefore they're venting it in sort of this kinds of attacks. Now, people like Emmanuel Agove, they consistently emphasize the sectarian nature of the conflict. Again, that specifically Christians are targeted. This say at this roadblock massacre, or the marking out of homes, or now with this seizure of girls, predominantly Christian girls, in the Chibok school in Borno State, Nigeria. A few have been released, and some of them who've been released have actually been, or escaped, have actually been Muslim girls. So there's, and then now with the girls, some of the girls in Boko Haram captivity are, as they've announced, are being forced to convert to Islam. Emmanuel Agove himself grew up in northern Nigeria and has noted that, he himself was very poor, and he and the people he knew in his community, they never resorted to any violence. And for that matter, among many Muslims, they're some of the nicest people you could know, he says. And indeed, today he was discussing how precisely in a kind of a fatalistic religious outlook in Islam, that many Muslims, if they are poor, they'll sort of accept that as their lot in life, and they'll have a different attitude towards their deprivation and say, well, that's just simply a fate I must accept, and that will therefore not be an incitement for any sort of aggressive action. But in the case of Boko Haram, there really is a sort of a jihadist, or what others have termed a kind of Islamist ideology of, again, trying to drive out non-Islamic influences from a majority Muslim northern Nigeria and to establish a Muslim rule in those areas. So that's been a key point of contention in recent months and years over what is the nature of Boko Haram and its conflict, and had played a role in, for example, it took a rather long time for the United States of America to come around to designating Boko Haram as a foreign terrorist organization, an FTO, which occurred several months ago, finally. So that's been a basic point of division of the nature of conflict.
All right. I think Rick Trader has some questions he'd like to ask you.
Yeah, Andrew, thanks for joining us again. Andrew, do we know anything other than the condition of these girls and where they're kept, other than they're being what we hear that they're being converted to Islam? Do we know if they're safe? Do we know if these threats are being acted out? Do we know if they're being abused? What do we know about them?
Oh, it's certainly, from irrespective of, certainly just the nature of Boko Haram is that you just have to assume that the situation of these girls would be very precarious. This particular young lady today, Deborah Peters, who came and spoke at the Hudson Institute, described her witnessing the killings of her family. The Boko Haram terrorists came into her dwelling and simply shot her brother and her father in front of her when they refused to recant their Christian faith. That's another feature that has occurred in various killings. Another survivor that I wrote about at the Investigative Project on Terrorism testified before Congress as well as the Hudson Institute, and discussed how he miraculously survived a headshot wound. And he as well, he discussed how the Boko Haram terrorists, these jihadists, demanded of him, recant your Christian faith, deny your faith, convert to Islam, otherwise you're going to die. And as he very movingly testified, he refused to do that, to die for my Christian faith, whereupon he was shot and was left for dead, but actually survived. And indeed, as was discussed by Emmanuel Agebe today at the Hudson Institute, many of the wounds of Boko Haram victims are indeed close-range headshots. And they do often come in and simply execution-style try to kill individuals. So that's their MO, as he said. There was discussed today at the Hudson Institute another incident of a girl who actually escaped from Boko Haram, was previously captured, and she was given a choice. That she was held in some Boko Haram camp, and she was. They kept saying to her, "Look, now you've got to convert to Islam, otherwise we're going to slit your throat." So we're going to give you some time to think this over, but if you don't recant your Christian faith and become Muslim, we're going to kill you. And finally, someone said there, look, just go along with it and save your life. Even if you don't believe it, just say it. And so she went ahead and said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll become Muslim. And then they said, well, we need to put her through a kind of a 90-day re-education period or cleansing period to sort of really truly bring her into the faith of Islam. And during that period, she was able to feign illness and escape before she would have been indeed married off to a Boko Haram member. So that's the kind of treatment you can probably predict these girls are confronting, of issues of forced conversion or death, or being forced into either, say, a forced Islamic child marriage, or indeed being used as a sex slave, as would be permitted under sort of historical Islamic doctrines of jihad and of treating captive non-Muslim slave women.
Andrew, one question I had about Nigeria itself. You mentioned earlier with John that it had a lot of oil wealth. Does this oil wealth have anything to do with the internal violence going on there?
Not specifically. I mean, people have argued that that's sort of part of the general background, that the South, the oil's in the South, and so therefore the oil mining and development takes place in the South, whereas in the North it's historically a deprived area. And so that feeds into this argument that Boko Haram is really arising out of local socioeconomic conditions. But as others have argued, that time and time again, they display a specifically sectarian character, that they do indeed attack Christians, and it's kind of hard to see how kidnapping of girls or specifically targeting of Christians, particularly pastors. For example, the father of the girl who, Deborah Peters, the young woman who appeared today at the Hudson Institute, was a pastor and was killed precisely after his church was blown up one time, and then in November of 2013, and then he committed again. He decided again that he would rebuild the church, whereupon finally in December of 2013, December 22nd, he was killed. So there's specific targeting of pastors. Also, another trademark of Boko Haram is that they very fiendishly will stage attacks precisely on Easter and Christmas. There's now developed a tradition in Nigeria, and for that matter in other Muslim-majority countries like Iraq, that precisely Easter and Christmas services and celebrations are perhaps some of the most dangerous times of Christians. That's you get a lot of Christians together at one point for a Christmas service and celebration, and then various jihadist forces will come in and attack them with, say, a car bombing or a shooting attack.
Well, Andrew Herod, John Mosley again. We probably have about a minute left for you to cover 1,400 years of history. But what happened here with these girls may seem completely baffling to someone who hasn't been following Muslim history. Is this typical, or is there any precedent for this kind of treatment of captives, of treatment of women? Is this completely out of the norm for Muslim history?
Well, as people like Robert Spencer has written online, there are indeed references in the Quran to the phrase that is used as what your right hand possesses, or milk al-yamun, meaning indeed slaves. That's in, for example, the Quran verse 4:3, as well as the Quran verse 4:24. So there are indeed references also in the life of Muhammad himself. On two occasions in particular, he did indeed take Jewish wives, Jewish women, who were widows of men whom he had killed in his fight. Who were killed in the fighting between Muslims and various Jewish tribes in the Arabian Peninsula. And then, so on two occasions, he took two widows from Jewish men killed as wives of his own: Rihanna from the Banu Qurayza Jewish tribe in Medina, and also Sufaya from the Banu Nadir tribe in the Khaybar Oasis, later attacked by the Muslims under Muhammad. So,
hey, John. Hey, Andrew. I'm sorry to do this, but we are out of time. So, Andrew, please give us a website where people can follow your writings.
You can follow me on Twitter at @Herod, or simply Google my name, and I'm working on a website. That'll be the next thing I'm setting up. But I'm at American Thinker or Investigative Project on Terrorism or Front Page Magazine, or main outlets of mine, or the Institute on Religion and Democracy as well.
Andrew Harrod, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, John Mosley, I also want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host. We'll also be with you, or you'll be with us again tomorrow, but for right now, we're out of time. We got to run, we got to go. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360.